Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Jess and I like to read a lot. This is going to go out on the last Saturday in March, so it is time for April's TBR and I am so excited. This is my favourite bit of the month, easily. I scared myself the other week when I did my series that I'm in the middle of video because 27 is too high of a number, especially when after I posted that, I realised that I was incorrect and I'd forgotten ACOTAR. So it's actually 28 series. And even if we just go off the books that I have the next one in the series to proceed with, we're at about 14. That's too many. So I am going to try and make a conscious effort this month of either continuing on with series that I'm in the middle of or only reading standalones because it's causing me anxiety and I've got a lot of other series that I want to start this year. So let's begin. Oh, this is so exciting. Honestly, I love doing it so much. Oh, we've got a shower of them. You guys can read first. What do we want to bet that I do it upside down as? Oh, where are we at? Is that the right way for you guys? A book you bought somewhere other than Amazon. Okay. So that's my entire Kindle off the cards, isn't it? Right, so I'm going to stay away from fantasy so that, again, I'm not going into a series. But option-wise, right, okay. So, two options. Different vibes. So we've either got Abby Jimenez, Part of Your World, or Freddie Backman's My Friends. So, after a wild bet, Alexis Montgomery has her world turned upside down. The cause, Daniel Grant, a ridiculously hot carpenter who's 10 years younger than her and as casual as they come. The complete opposite of sophisticated city girl Alexis, and yet their chemistry is undeniable. While her ultra-wealthy parents want her to carry on the family legacy of world-renowned surgeons, Alexis doesn't need glory or fame. She's fine with being a mere ER doctor. And every minute she spends with Daniel in the tight-knit town where he lives, she's discovering what's really important. Yet letting their relationship become anything more than a short-term fling would mean turning her back on her family and giving up the opportunity to help thousands of people. Bringing Daniel into her world is impossible, and yet she just can't give up the joy she's found with him either. With so many differences between them, how can Alexis possibly choose between her world and his? And then Frederick Backman. 25 years ago, a group of teenagers found solace in each other during one unforgettable summer. Their friendship inspired a transcendent work of art, a painting that now mysteriously belongs to 18-year-old aspiring artist Louisa. Driven to learn the story behind its creation, Louisa embarks on a journey to the seaside town where it all began. But as she gets closer to the painting's birthplace, Louisa learns that happy endings do not always take the form that we expect. I don't know. Oh, right. Keep getting drawn to it. I'm going to go with Abby Jimenez, Part of Your World. That's exciting. That's the first one. Camera eats first, and we're upside down. A book a friend has raved about. I genuinely don't know if I've got any on my TBR at the minute. Right. What I'm going to do then, because I think it is on Kindle Unlimited, I am going to carry on with the Trial of the Sun Queen series, so the Artifacts of Oranos, I think is how you say it. So the second book in that series is Rule of the Aurora King. And I know a few of my friends have read that and absolutely love the series. So that is going to be my pick for prompt number 2, a book a friend has raved about. That was so much harder than expected. Oh, thought I had 2. Continue a series. Thank you, TBR Jar. Let's have a look. Which ones do I want to continue with? There are a lot I would like to continue with. However, I am going to be somewhat sensible and I am going to go with the second book in the Six of Crows duology by Leah Bardugo, so Crooked Kingdom, and then I can tick a series completely off. So Leah Bardugo, Crooked Kingdom is going to be my pick for continue a series. a book that scares me. I know exactly what I'm picking for this. And it does also help with my series. I'm actually scared to get it. It is massive. It's The Strength of the Few by James Islington. I'm not entirely sure how we're saying it, but I mean, it is a 700 plus page hardback. But that absolutely scares me. So that is going to be my pick for a book that scares me. So we've got two more, and let's talk about them. Chosen by Lex. Right. I better text her. I'll pick the sixth one whilst I wait for her to text me back. The first word in the title starts with a consonant. Interesting, because this is the vast majority of my TBR. So I'm going to purposely not count the as a word. And actually, if I am still being sensible, and I'm still continuing with series because I have to get this list down, I am going to go with Sunbringer by Hannah Kaner. So I've got 6 prompts. We then have my book club's book of the month pick, which we have thankfully changed things up, and I am not having to read a romantasy, and we are having to read. I'm not entirely sure whether I can get away with saying the title of the book, so I'm just gonna point. And also TBC has got disbanded. So what I am also going to do now is spin 2 different wheels, and I am going to have another series to continue with, and I'm also going to have one of my sprayed edges to read so that I finally start getting that list down as well. And also Lex text me back, so BRB, let's see what she said. First of all, let us spin my Spreadges wheel. It's Havasis. So, Catabasis by R.F. Kwang ticks off one of my 26 in 2026. It's a sprayed edge. It's a stunning edition. Love this for me. And then let's spin so I can see what I have to continue with here. So that's so exciting. So the series that I have to continue with is The Conqueror by Con Iggulden. Did not expect that to come up. Lex has also just replied and told me that I have to start the Caraval series. So it's a good job that I'll be ticking off a couple of series this month. So Caraval by Stephanie Garber is Lex's pick for my TBR in April. I have gone through this very quickly, and I have done this on purpose. I have filmed earlier in the month than I expected to, but later in a day than I would like. So I do now have to go pick up my son from school. However, when I get back, / tomorrow, I'm going to sit down and we will go through all of these and talk about them properly. But this is an exciting start. So quite quickly, I'm back. I've just looked on Goodreads and realised that actually the Rise of the Aurora King reviews weren't as high as I remembered, so I don't think it really counts as a book that people have raved about. So I'm going to draw again. Title starts with a vowel. Okay. This is going to be a lot harder than the consonant one. Again, to try and make things not completely simple, I'm going to try and disregard A. This is where I then have to spend 3 minutes in my head just going A-E-I-O-U to remember my vowels. So, back to my physicals. Actually, let's go to my Kindle. No, I need to prioritise my physical TBR. See, there is one that you guys can see as well that I'm thinking I should go for that one. But does anybody else feel like they need to ignore books they've only recently got? Or is that just me? Like, it just doesn't feel like it's its time yet. I know what I'm going to go with. Oh, I'm going to have such a good month of series. I am going to continue with Red Rising, and I'm going to read the first book in the second arc, which is Iron Gold. And now I am actually going and I will be back either later today or tomorrow, and we'll talk through the stack. Hello guys, so it is a different day, same jumper, but we listen and we don't judge. And if you do judge, don't tell me about it. It was clean, it's fine. So, like I said yesterday, due to time constraints, I picked my TBR jar, but today I'm going to actually tell you about the books that were picked. So, first of all, I'm going to go through my book club's book of the month by Emma Jane Unsworth. And this is a contemporary fiction that follows two sisters on a road trip through Scotland. And from what I understand about it, it flashes back in time to their teenage years within the 90s and then to modern day as they're on this journey. And through this journey, I think they heal a lot of the hurt between them. They heal a lot of their own childhood trauma. The flashbacks are very teen focused. So there's a lot of their obsession with boys, with getting into trouble, with trying things they maybe shouldn't be trying. But it is supposed to be a very heartwarming book eventually that sort of centers on female friendship and overcoming your demons from the past. So I am very, very excited for this. And I am so, so happy that we have now taken a step away from romantasy books within my book club. Honestly, I can't wait. I've got really high hopes for this one. We then had an opportunity for Lex to pick one of my books, and she's picked Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I read Phantasma last year and really enjoyed it, and everyone said Phantasma was like an adult Caraval. And then as the months have gone on, I keep just seeing more and more about Caraval, and I keep seeing creators who've really enjoyed it. And I think I enjoy the YA aspect about it because I think it will allow the actual story to shine through, whereas Phantasma was quite smut heavy, which, don't get me wrong, again, I really enjoyed it, but I do prefer more of a plot in my books when I'm reading them. So in Caraval, we follow Scarlet, who enters a magical tournament, and she is competing in all of these trials to try and save her sister. So again, it's very, very similar to Phantasma, just without the blood shower scene, I'm assuming. But that was a highlight of Phantasma, to be fair. Good time. It was a good time all around. The reviews I see of Caraval are all really high. However, the reviews I see of the Once Upon a Time series are even higher, and this is a prequel to that. So ultimately, I want to read Caraval so that I can finally then read Once Upon a Time, because that series looks really good. I have also heard this is more of a YA version of The Night Circus, and I loved The Night Circus. The Night Circus was so, so well written and was just a magical masterpiece, really. So that also makes me very excited for this one. A book bought somewhere other than Amazon. I did go through this one as I was picking it out of the jar. I went with Abby Jimenez, Part of Your World. I am so excited to read this. I have realised in the last sort of 2 months, I actually really like a contemporary romance. And I'm not hiding from that anymore. And all I saw last year were Abby Jimenez recommendations and Emily Henry and Ellie Hazelwood. So I've read a couple of Ellie Hazelwood. I do have some Emily Henry to start on, but this is going to be my first Abby Jimenez book. I also really enjoy saying Jimenez. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but it's really fun to say. But ultimately, it's small town romance. You've got big city slicker girl falls in love with small town carpenter. I think it's just going to be a nice, good time with a little bit of heart-wrenching emotion along the way, and I'm here for that. I'm good with it. I've just realised my light hasn't been on for most of this, so honestly, this TBR video is just going to be a clusterfuck from start to finish, I think. However, we then got a book that scares me, and this was a clear winner for this one. And it was book 2 in the Hierarchy series by James Islington. The Strength of the Few. This book is massive. It is a 700-page plus hardback. It's too big. I'm terrified. Like, it's not even like it's big font or like the formatting pretty much filled the entire page. However, I read book 1 in February, so The Will of the Many, and that was such an easy 5-star read. It was incredible. The ending of that book had my jaw on the absolute floor, and I am very excited to read this. So, a sequel, very few things I can say, but ultimately, The Will of the Many follows Viz, and it's set I've got pins and needles in my foot. Hold on. Does anyone else sit on their foot and then just really regret it when they can't feel their limbs? Anyway, the Hierarchy series is set in a Roman-inspired fantasy world, which I'm always a big, big fan of. And we follow Viz, who is a 17-year-old orphan who is adopted by a senator and given access to this training academy where the leaders of tomorrow all go to get their education. He is placed there to uncover mysteries surrounding a suspected murder. And he basically starts to uncover the complete truth about the society that they live in and how nothing is as it seems. This book was phenomenal. First 40% of The Will of the Many, I was like, this is a good time, but I'm not like obsessed. I'm not really seeing all the hype. Like, it's a well-written book. I am enjoying it. Something happens at about 40% that then caused me to read 60% of that book in one day because I could not put it down. It was incredible. And the ending took the story in a direction I was not expecting. So I am so, so excited to continue with this. The only thing that worries me, other than the size, is that book 3 isn't written yet. I think it's due out end of next year, maybe. Either way, I'm going to be waiting a year plus to finish this trilogy. But, oh my God. I love that story so much. I'm very excited for this one. It then got title starts with a vowel. And because I'm being so well behaved this month and carrying on with series, I chose Iron Gold by Pierce Brown, which is the 4th book in the Red Rising series as a whole, but it's the 1st book in the 2nd arc of books. So this is set about 10 years after the final events of Morningstar. And it follows Darrow as he navigates being a husband, a warlord, all those usual things. There are people from his past that come back because they're wanting answers to things that have happened. It changes, I believe, from the Red Rising initial trilogy, which was only told in Darrow's point of view because this is multi-POV, and I love a multi-POV. So I think it'll be very interesting to get the other viewpoints of what is happening. So I believe there are 4 viewpoints. Darrow is obviously one of them, and I won't say the other 3 names for spoilers. One of them is a character we have met before, and the other 2 are brand new characters into the story. And all I've heard is that this 2nd arc just gets better and better and better. And considering I rated the first 3 Red Rising books 5 stars each, it's going to be wonderful. For those that aren't aware of it, Red Rising is a sci-fi dystopian book that follows Darrow, who lives in a world where people are separated by colours. So you've got reds at the bottom, they tend to be miners, live on Mars, and this goes all the way up through the echelons of society until we have gold at the top, who are the ruling elite. Darrow, in the initial Red Rising, almost like the Hierarchy series, has an opportunity to go infiltrate the training academy where the golds learn the ways of their people. And he starts to bring down the system from the inside. Red Rising is this incredible tale of found family. There is a stunning love story that kind of goes through the whole initial trilogy. There is also so much humour in these books. Severo is one of my favourite side characters that has ever been written. And I said it as I was reading the initial trilogy, but you can see how much of a millennial Pierce Brown is as you're reading them because some of the humour that he puts in. I mean, there is one point where he legitimately puts in a Bye Felicia reference, and I was howling. It was great. Loved it. But, very, very excited, as always, to continue with that series. Then, because my TBR jar was clearly listening to me, I actually pulled out Continue a Series. So for this one, I went with A Crooked Kingdom, which is the 2nd book in the Six of Crows duology, so it will finish off that one. I read Six of Crows quite early on last year, and I enjoyed it, but when you see so many people talk about how it's like one of their favourite books, I wasn't really brought into the hype that way. I enjoyed it, but I actually didn't feel this need to continue with it after the book ended. I actually thought it ended quite well in a way that it could be considered a standalone. However, a few months ago on Kindle deals, Crooked Kingdom was on for 99p, so I thought, might as well get it. I can tick off a series. So, Six of Crows is a YA duology that very much focuses on a found family, which, as we all know, I love. I'm a big fan of. It follows Kaz Brecker, who is a criminal prodigy as he puts together this little ragtag band of criminals to carry out this huge heist. This book was fast-paced, which I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the dynamics between the characters. Weirdly, I also really enjoyed how in-depth the characters were. And as I was reading it, I was like, oh, I love how much thought Leigh Bardugo has put into these characters. Like, you can tell they have a full backstory and a full history. I didn't realise that there is a series before Six of Crows, which explains why these characters are so fleshed out. But it still works. I, at no point whilst reading Six of Crows, sat there and thought, I missed something? Like, am I supposed to have read something else first? Like, it was quite easy to just dive into that book, but I still got all the benefits of, I think it's the Shadow and Bone trilogy. The second book in the duology is called Crooked Kingdom. It is the culmination of the story. So there are certain things that happen at the end of Six of Crows. But like I said, I was like, all right, that's just happened. That's the end of it. But no, apparently we get a culmination to it. And that's that one, really. The first one that I'm going to go through, title starts with a consonant, and I chose Sunbringer, which is the second book in the Fallen Gods trilogy. So the first book is Godkiller, and in Godkiller we follow Kissen, who is known as a Vega, or a god killer, within this land where deities have been outlawed. Whilst on a job one day, she runs into Inara, who is a young noble girl who has somehow become bound to the god of white lies, Skedaseth. Kissen reluctantly agrees to help Inara and Skedaseth to get to a ruined city where they believe the answers lie on how they can undo this binding between them. They're also joined by Elagast, who was a knight but is now a baker. So there's a lot of bread references in the first book, which were welcomed, but it was a little odd. So, from what I know, Sunbringer follows on directly from the events at the end of Godkiller, which I really enjoy. I don't like it when there's an interlude between books, unless there's a novella that kind of fills that gap. But I enjoy it when the end of book one is someone walks out of a room, and book two it's they enter into XYZ, and that's pretty much how this one starts. So in terms of a genre, this is fantasy. I wouldn't say it's quite epic fantasy, but it's definitely kind of that mid-tier. It's very much found family. There's forbidden religion, which I do enjoy a religious element in books. I think it's a really interesting thing to delve into. There is also a little tiny bit of a romance, but it's by no means a vital plot point. It's just something that kind of happens. But ultimately, it's a very high stakes adventure. I then span the wheels in a bid to start reading my spreadsheets instead of them just looking like pretty ornaments, and two, start a thing where every month I'm going to actively continue a series, even if the prompts don't act like my friend like they did this month. So for the Spreadsheets one, we got Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. This is also one of my 26 books in 2026 that I want to read, so it ticks off multiple boxes. I'm very excited. And this is a dark academia fantasy that follows two PhD students as they have to follow their professor into the depths of hell in order to defend their thesis and therefore get their doctorates. I've heard only good things about this book. And as I keep saying about every book, I'm so excited to read it, but mainly because I read Blood over Brighthaven last year. And as a rule, I'm put off by dark academia. It's not a genre that I gravitate towards. However, Blood over Brighthaven, I loved because it wasn't a where kids in a school setting. The academia part of it was more of an overall umbrella because of the professions that the main character was in. I think that Catabasis is going to be quite similar in that, because I'm aware defending their thesis, that's quite a heavy part of academia. But again, it isn't going to be we're trying to solve a mystery in the school type affair. And that's what I don't like about dark academia. I like a book that, no matter how sort of fantastical or magical it is, has some sort of real life grounding, which is weird because I don't actually like magical realism. But because Catabasis is essentially this nightmare rendition of gaining a PhD, I'm excited to read that. It's almost like an exaggerated version of the stress that a PhD student will go through. And I think that's going to be very, very interesting to read. I'm really looking forward to starting to read R.F. Kuang books because I've got quite a lot of them on my TBR because I inherently feel like I'm going to enjoy her writing. I'm going to be devastated if I don't, but hopefully that one will be a good one. And my edition of it is stunning. I should have brought it with me, but I'll put pictures here because it's the Illumicrate one. Like, It's got this little hard case, and it's just, oh, beautiful. And then the final one was my which series am I going to continue wheel? And this one picked one that I wasn't expecting, and I'm so excited to read it because it is a reread, but it is one of my favourite series of all time. And it is to continue with the Conqueror series by Con Iggulden. This is so unlike anything else that I've been reading at the moment. I read it a couple of years ago. It's historical fiction and it is a retelling of Genghis Khan's life. So the first book is Birth of an Empire, and that follows Genghis from being a small boy to his father being murdered by rival tribes, to him, his mother, and his brothers all fighting for survival. And it basically ends with him starting to gather tribes together. The second book in the series, which is the one I'll be reading in April, is Lord of the Bows. And in this one is when Genghis really starts making a name for himself. So he becomes known for gathering all these nomadic tribes together, for taking in any stragglers that maybe aren't being accepted by other tribes. And ultimately, this is where the big battles start. And this whole series is it's incredible. I loved it from start to finish. It's such a good retelling of a period of history that, especially in England, you don't do much about, even though everyone knows the name Genghis Khan. So I'm so aware that, the historical bit of this book is very much take with a pinch of salt. However, I loved it. I love this series. But because of everything else I'm reading at the minute, it was never going to be a series, I don't think, that I organically picked up to carry on reading. So I read it in full a few years ago and then I reread the first one last year. So it was on my list, but I always just thought, oh, when I'm in the mood for it, I'll pick it up. But I just don't know when that'd be. However, now being told I have to read it, I'm very, 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 very excited. Oh, it's just something different as well. You don't see, or at least with the people that I sort of follow on social media and things like that, I don't see a lot of people talking about Connie Golden's books, but they are incredibly well done. He's a historian. Him and his brother have written a couple of books for children, like history books for children. And I just think that he has a way of writing that you feel like you're in those books. They're very immersive and I can't wait. And that, I think, is all of them. I have no idea how I'm going to edit this video because I feel like it's going to be all over the place. I feel like I've repeated myself a lot. I may be full of regret when I come to doing this. However, thank you as always so much for watching. Please let me know what you plan on reading. Let me know if you have read any of these books, if there's any that I should be looking forward to the most. And I will see you on the next one. Bye.